Joyce are back with us. Bill and Joyce Harley of Marriage Builders. And if you've missed our two previous programs, I can't encourage you enough. Please go to our website and view them. It's there free of charge, and it's a wonderful way to be able to share these programs with friends and just view them at your own leisure. Husbands and wives, get a computer, sit down, watch together, whatever it might be. The last two programs, we've really emphasized their bestseller, His Needs, Her Needs. And this is, again, a real must-need, and it will help you in your relationship. And Bill and Joyce, I want to welcome you back. Thank you again for the investment that you're making in my life personally, but as well in the many viewers that we have.
Our pleasure. It's
wonderful. We have a new book. Okay, so what we've done is in this book, we've discovered a love bank. We recognize that the needs of men and women are very different. I think for many, they're like, I'm learning a language, that I'll be able to express what my needs are. I knew that I had them, and I knew they weren't being met, and I knew it was frustrating to me, but we're beginning, the communication and begin to notice and understand one another. Okay, so we've learned how we can begin to make deposits. And I think what's important is you talked very clearly about romantic love. Yeah, romantic love. I mean, just that feel-good love, enjoyment, excited when they walk in the room, glad to see you, that kind of thing. How am I doing?
Incredible attraction for the opposite sex. That's the definition of it. And if you feel incredible attraction for your spouse, a divorce is just simply out of the question.
Yes.
You're never going to even think about a divorce. And it'll bring the best out of you.
Yes.
In other words, the things that you should be doing in your marriage are going to be easy to do. You're going to feel more like caring for your spouse. You're going to feel more like being the kind of husband or wife that God wants us all to be.
Many people say romantic love leaves after the first 3 to 5 years. In other words, don't count on it lasting for life. And I think what Bill is saying, and we can attest to, and other couples as well, no, that's settling for half a loaf. I mean, you can have that same sizzle, that same excitement to see each other that just lit up your eyes when you were talking about it. That, no, it doesn't have to end.
Right.
And there are ways that you can continue it on. But many are out there saying, listen, don't even expect it, learn to live without it, and get on with your married life. That's sad.
It is. And people, please, take it from this couple. 47 years married. And Willard and Betty, 50 plus years married. Audrey and I, 26 years married. Come on, it's only getting better. And I remember when I was younger, newly married, and I mean, it was good. And people say, oh, it only gets better. And I'm like, how? And it's different, but it does get better.
Right.
It does. Okay.
Let me just make one other point.
Yes.
That is that there are 4 kinds of marriages. We know that 40% of marriages end in divorce. So one group, they don't make it, they end in divorce. 20% end in permanent separation. By that I mean they stay married, but they don't live together anymore. And they die separated. Another 20% are in a marriage, they're living together, but they're very, very unhappy with their marriage. They are not in love with each other. 20% are in love. 20% are happily married. Now, the question is, does that mean that you've got 1 chance out of 5 of having a happy marriage? No. You have 100% chance of having a happy marriage if you do the right things in your marriage. And by do the right things, I'm talking about depositing love units and avoiding their withdrawal. Making massive love bank deposits by meeting important emotional needs. And avoiding the withdrawals that we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, so this is the deposit.
Right.
This is identifying our needs and identifying the needs of our spouse so that I can begin to make those deposits.
Right.
So you can learn their language, speak their language, and love them in the way that they know that they're loved. Okay, now today we want to begin to introduce Love Busters. Okay, what's a Love Buster?
A love buster is any habit that makes your spouse unhappy. We talked earlier about the fact that when you make your spouse happy, you make love bank deposits. If you make enough love bank deposits, you end up bursting through the romantic love threshold, you end up being in love. But you can do the opposite. You can make love bank withdrawals. You can do things that make your spouse unhappy. And when you do that, you lose the love that you had worked to achieve. So you can do all the right things in terms of meeting each other's emotional needs. But if at the same time you're making serious mistakes in the way you're treating each other so that you're unhappy, it does you no good. Because it's like pouring water into a sieve. It all drains out.
Right.
And so the thing that you have to think about is, yes, I have to meet my spouse's important emotional needs, but at the same time, I got to plug up the holes.
Yeah.
I got to make sure that we're not losing love units by making some very, very common mistakes that make people in marriage miserable.
Right. And again, I'll reference our sitcoms. And the whole thing is that they create brownie points. They'll do something really good for their spouse so that I can do my thing, and we'll balance it out. I'll give a little and I'm going to take, and then we're back to ground zero again. And it's like, okay, if I want to do this, I'm going to have to be extra. You understand?
Right.
And it's a horrible cycle, to live in.
Exactly. Yep. And that's one of the love busters, by the way, is doing what you please, even though you know your spouse isn't going to like it. But the basic idea is that anything you do where your spouse says, I don't like what it is you're doing to me, if it's a habit, if you do it once in a lifetime, I mean, if it's really, really bad, maybe I could call that a love buster.
Yeah.
But it's mostly habits that are love busters. It's things that you do again and again and again, unrelenting pain, unrelenting suffering that you're imposing upon yourself, a spouse, simply because you think that it's right, you have a right to do it, but at the same time, you're losing your spouse's love for you.
Okay. You use a term of marital abuse and a term of marital control. Is that kind of what we're alluding to a little bit here, in withdrawing or requiring or wanting my own way?
Well, there are two categories of love busters, right?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And one has to do with care,
One has to do with abuse and control.
right?
And that is, there are three of them.
So that's what you're referring to
Oh,
there.
There are three love busters that have to do with abuse and control. And
Okay, so these are different categories
Right.
of withdrawals that
Right.
we can take
And
out.
then there are
and
three
deplete.
love
Okay.
busters that have to do with the development of incompatibility. In other words, that the more you do it, the more incompatible you'll become. So let's first talk about abuse and control, since you brought it up. Abuse and control, of course, we all would argue, we all know that it's wrong.
Yeah.
But it's instinctive. And so there are three ways that people are abusive and controlling that are instinctive. And it has to do with problem solving. How do you solve problems in your marriage? The first is selfish demands. In other words, that the way I get Joyce to do something for me is to tell her to do it. Makes
Seems
sense.
simple
Doesn't that
enough.
seem,
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't seem like the right way to approach a problem?
It isn't going to work, but it sounds simple.
It's
Yeah.
efficient. It's efficient.
Yeah,
and,
for you.
and if you simply cooperate with me, it'll get the job done.
Yeah, well, that's
But-
too bad.
I mean, it works probably better for Bill. He'll say, just tell me what you want. More for a man, because
Yeah.
I'm not reading your mind well.
Yes. Okay. Well, women tend to say, "Well, just do it. I don't have time to talk about it. Just do it." But that's a selfish demand.
That's
Okay.
right. If Joyce
Okay.
wants something from me or I want something from Joyce, we're tempted to tell the other person to do it.
Take the trash out. They're coming in half an hour.
Yep.
But even still, that's telling him what to do.
Yeah. Or I might tell Joyce that while you're out doing errands, pick this up for me. at this other store.
All right.
Now it seems innocent.
Right.
Yeah, it seems really
It seems
little,
innocent.
Yeah.
It seems like a little problem.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's just the way we
but
communicate.
it's the first stage of abuse and control, because you're telling your spouse what to do instead of asking your spouse how he or she would feel about doing it. Now, a lot of people would say, "Oh, come on, that is so trivial.
I don't have time.
I
You're
don't
coming
have
in half an
time
hour."
to
Yeah.
say, how would you feel about doing something for me?" It sounds like you've taken some kind of a touchy-feely psychology course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not anything that I ever want to be able to do. But you see, there's a philosophy behind telling a person what to do, and a philosophy behind asking a person how they'd feel about it.
I was
One
raised
is-
with the concept, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's what we're talking about here.
One is a demand, and the other is a request. The question really is, in marriage, does a demand withdraw love units? And my argument is that it does. It does. No one likes to be told what to do. Now, everybody might say, well, it's a very simple little thing. If I were to go to all the trouble saying, how do you feel about going to the store for me and picking this thing up? Isn't that terribly complicated? And doesn't it assume that your relationship must be on the rocks to be able to say something, required to say something?
Yeah.
I say, no, it communicates the fact that you care about how the other guy feels.
You're being considerate.
It communicates your care for the other person. If I say, listen, while you're out, get some gas for the car, because we're out of gas. I mean, you say, why not? Why not put it that way? Because after all, she's going to run out of gas if she doesn't get some, you see? But you see, the question is, what's behind the way you say something? What is the philosophy behind it? Do I feel that I have the right to tell Joyce, as my wife, who has promised to cherish me and care for me and love me, do I have the right to tell her what to do for me? Or, if I care for her in return, do I have the responsibility to communicate in my request the fact that I care about her? See, now, other people think, see, this is what psychologists do. They make things terribly complicated.
Yeah, this is getting
and
really
they
thick,
effeminate everything. You know, I mean, it's just nothing men would ever think of doing.
Right.
But it is a very important point, because it will help us understand the next two, which are far more destructive. But the point is that you're off on the wrong foot.
Good.
If you tell a person what to do instead of asking them how they feel about
And then
what
if the
you want.
spouse feels compelled to do it because there might be a punishment of some sort, it could be just not talking, sulking, or it could be more drastic. It could get more into the abuse level.
Yep.
Then it's the beginning of what perpetuated could really become a problem in the marriage. And we're only saying, let's practice courtesy. Would you tell one of your employees?
Now,
yeah.
there's a word that's left our culture.
Yeah, courtesy.
Courtesy.
Yes. Yeah. Not curtsy, but courtesy,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
To be considerate of the other.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
You know, Philippians, 2, 3, 6, something like that, prefer the other as being more important than yourself.
Right.
And it begins by saying this, don't be selfish. I mean, that's my marriage verse of the Bible. Don't be selfish. Prefer others as being more important than yourself.
Yeah,
That's
there are
the
many,
point.
many verses. Ephesians 5:21, submit yourselves one to another as unto Christ. The basic idea is that we should be thinking about the other person before we do something. And in this particular case, if I'm asking Joyce to pick up something for me, or if I ask her to do, what's the thought behind it? What's the thought behind is it a demand? Is it something I'm expecting of her? Do I feel entitled to whatever it is? Or am I asking her to help me with something that I know she cares about me, but I also care about her, and I want to communicate the fact that I care about her in the very way I ask her to do something for me? Now, again, philosophy. I've often told people this. As a psychologist, the question is, how do you motivate people to do things for you? How do you get something out of somebody else? And I've told people throughout my entire career that if you want somebody to stop doing something for you, demand it. Whatever it is, if you want them to stop it, demand it. So, when you want something of your spouse and you need it badly, don't demand it because you're less likely to get it in the future. Demands actually demotivate us. Requests motivate us. So if I say, Joyce, how would you feel about helping me with this? She'd be motivated to help me. If I say, I want you to do this regardless of how you feel, because I think you owe it to me, she's less likely to do it later. So we got two issues here. One is, if I demand something of Joyce, if I tell her to do it, I'm going to withdraw love units. She's going to love me less because I've told her to do something. The second is she's less likely to do it next time. So, from a purely practical standpoint, would you want to make a demand? I think not. I think what you would want is to make a request.
Yeah.
Because she's more likely to do it if you make a request. You're not going to withdraw love units. You're more likely to get it again next time. See, so the basic idea is demands should be out of the question. Don't make them. Requests should be the way you approach problem solving. Now, the next love buster that I talk about is disrespectful judgments. It turns out to be the second stage of abuse and control. Demands don't seem like much. They seem like, oh, well, you know, we all kind of take shortcuts. We cut a few words out of our sentences.
They really know how I feel.
Yeah.
But,
You know,
Yeah,
they
one would
know
think
that I
so,
love
right.
them. They know that I care.
what if she isn't going to do it for me? You know, what if I'm not going to help her? What if I'm not going to put away the dishes? What if she says, put away the dishes for me? I say, no, I'm not going to put away the dishes. The next thing that comes to her mind is, you lazy good-for-nothing person, you. Now,
And a few more things. Yes.
see, the next thing that's going to happen is that she's going to accuse me of having a characteristic that makes me unworthy of her. See, in other words, she's going to ridicule me. She is going to raise it to another level. And she is going to say things, really what she wants me to do is put away the dishes. But because I'm not doing what she wants me to do, the next stage is she's going to turn it into a judgment of my character. And she's going to call me names, and she's going to say things that are going to make me think that I am a worthless person, and if I had only put away the dishes, I would have become a worthy person.
And when you do that, you're performing a love buster, which withdraws love units.
Yeah, and my point is it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
No.
I mean,
It's not productive.
but it's so instinctive. It's something that comes to mind immediately. The words are right there. You don't have to give it any thought. You just utter the thoughts that you have in your mind. They're terribly disrespectful, and it makes you feel a little better to say all those things. Again,
Yeah.
they don't get the job done, which means that your spouse is less likely to do it again next time. You're going to withdraw love units. Why do it?
Well, because I want to be, and again, we talked about this in the other show, I want to be true to myself.
Yeah, right.
And the whole thing is
This is how I
you're
express
irritating
myself,
me.
right.
Yeah, I want to be honest about this. And you know what? Really, all you do is come in, sit down, demand dinner, bring me a drink, take care of me. I've been working all those days. And you know what? I'm done with it.
Yeah.
That's the clash
Everybody
that's going
is
on
saying
here.
ditto, to
Right.
everything you
I
just
don't care
said.
what you're thinking.
Yeah.
I don't care what you're saying. I won't even listen. I mean, that's the reaction that a person gets to disrespectful judgments. I'm not going to pay any attention to you. And yet people do it. In marriage,
And
how
then
many
it
marriages?
escalates,
Yes.
thinking this is
Right.
how I'm going to get their attention.
Yes.
I can defend myself. I can, support my point of view. My needs are more important than your needs, and you're ignoring me. And it just
And I feel better.
Right.
I feel
Right.
better. I feel like I've gotten it off my chest.
Yeah.
But in the long run, it's non-productive, and it's hurtful, and it's destroying love.
Right.
We say it's withdrawing love units.
Right.
It's a love buster.
Right.
I mean, so the point is, now that you're aware of this, let's start practicing a different way of requesting of each other. Wording it a different way, not demanding, and not being disrespectful should they choose not to do it. Bill says, can you pick up something on the way home? How would you feel about that? And I say, well, you know, I got to get home. I'm expecting a call, and I need to be home to get this call. I'm sorry, I can't do it on the way. Done. That's it. He gave me an opportunity to do it or not. And see my point? See the difference there? And the request allows some discussion, some negotiation.
Yeah, I might say, for example, that yeah, I don't need it exactly at this point in time. Could you get it? Could you get it when you go out next? You know, is there some other way that this could be handled in a way that would work for you as well as it does for me? See, I mean, that's the whole point. That what are my alternatives? If I take selfish demands and disrespectful judgments away from people, I am not taking away the opportunity to solve the problem. Matter of fact, I am creating the opportunity to solve the problem. You would not have solved the problem the other way.
You're creating more of a problem.
Now what I'm doing is I'm saying, what are the other alternatives to a demand and disrespectful judgment so that you can get what you want? I tell audiences that I speak to, I want you to have everything you've ever wanted in your marriage. And I want your spouse to give it to you. I'm not going to be giving it to you. Your spouse is the one giving it to you. And I want to show you how to get it from your spouse.
Right.
I want to show you how to get what you need from your spouse. Selfish demands, disrespectful judgments will not get the job
It's not
done.
going to get there. Okay, thanks for your help. We need to take a quick break, and I know that you're getting help here. It's like, okay. And you might say, we're way beyond that. I mean, we're at the escalated point, you know. And here's the thing, is that there are foundations that you have laid that have led up to this. And so what we're doing is just beginning to address those so that we can be really begin to take a look, okay, what can we undo? You know, how can I really begin to build and make deposits here? How can I really be heard? You know, just as Bill said, so that you can really begin to experience in your marriage everything you've wanted. The book that we're featuring today, Love Busters, available from us here at New Day Ministries. Let's get this break over and get back with Bill and Joyce right after this.